They didn't become avoidant by accident. They were trained, not with words, but with silence, not with love, but with its absence. Every sigh, every look away, every moment they reached out and found nothing there. That was the blueprint that taught them closeness is unsafe, that needing is shameful, that love disappears when you touch it, and you thought you were dealing with the person in front of you, but you were really dealing with their past, their childhood, their nervous system, still carrying rules written decades ago. This is the childhood blueprint behind every avoidant, and it explains everything. The blueprint hidden in childhood. We think love begins with adulthood. We think it begins with dating, with romance, with choice. But love, or the lack of it, begins much earlier. In the crib, in the nursery, in the small, unseen moments of childhood. Because before an avoidant turned away from you, they had already learned to turn away from their caregivers. Imagine a baby crying out, their body trembling with need, their tiny chest heaving, their whole being screaming one message: come to me. But the caregiver doesn't come, or they come late, or they come cold, or they come with irritation in their eyes. And slowly, that baby learns. The world does not respond. My needs do not matter. Connection does not comfort. This is not a lesson written in books. It is written in the nervous system, in the heart rate, in the tears that dry before arms arrive. When this happens enough times, the child adapts, not by asking louder, not by needing more, but by needing less. They bury the need. They shut down the cry. They teach themselves, if I stop needing, I stop hurting. This is the origin of avoidant attachment, a survival strategy that begins as wisdom in a child's body. And here's the cruel part. It works. The child learns to soothe themselves. They learn to rely on no one. They grow independent, and the adults may even praise them for it. Such a good baby. So quiet. So easy. But what looks like independence is really resignation. The child has not grown strong. They have grown silent. This silence follows them into adulthood. So when you reached for their hand, they pulled away. When you asked for their heart, they gave you distance. Not because they didn't care, but because caring once left them empty-handed. Their nervous system still remembers the early rule. Closeness hurts. Needing is unsafe. Love cannot be trusted. Psychologists call this insecure avoidant attachment. But beneath the jargon is something simple. A child who reached out and was not met. A child who needed and was shamed. A child who loved and felt abandoned. That child did not disappear. They grew into the adult you love. And when they turn cold, when they withdraw, when they build walls, it is not about you. It is about the blueprint. Let's make this concrete. Picture a toddler running with joy toward their parent. Arms out, eyes sparkling, heart wide open. And imagine the parent's response. Distracted, on the phone, tired, or worse, rejecting. The toddler stumbles, not because they tripped, but because their joy was left unanswered. Do this enough times, and the child learns to stop running, stop reaching, stop showing joy at all. Not because the joy isn't there, but because it hurts too much. When joy meets nothing. This is the avoidant blueprint. Not a lack of need, but a lack of safety in expressing it. So they hide, they mask, they bury the very parts of themselves that were once ignored. And by the time they grow up, the mask looks permanent, cool, calm, self-sufficient. But beneath it all is a nervous system, still aching from those early unmet cries. This is why in adulthood, your love felt like a threat, because while you offered closeness, their body remembered distance. You offered comfort, but their body remembered disappointment. You offered warmth, but their body remembered cold. It wasn't you they were protecting themselves from. It was their past. It was the echo of childhood. When you fell in love with them, you didn't just meet a partner. You met a nervous system, trained to believe that love is unsafe. You met a child still hidden inside, who learned long ago that to need is to risk pain. And until that blueprint is rewritten, every touch feels dangerous. Every closeness feels threatening. Every relationship feels like a test. They were never prepared to pass. This is the heartbreaking truth. The avoidant does not lack love. They lack trust in love. Because long before you, long before adulthood, their childhood wrote the script. Stay strong by staying distant. Stay safe by staying silent. Stay alive by staying alone. And you were never just dealing with their choices. You were dealing with their blueprint. The childhood blueprint behind every avoidant. The rules their nervous system still obeys. The avoidant does not wake up and decide to withdraw. They don't sit down and plan to go cold. They don't calculate how to hurt you. It is not strategy. It is reflex. Because long before thought, long before language, their nervous system learned a set of rules. Rules that still live in their body today. The first rule: closeness is dangerous. To you, closeness feels warm, safe, natural. But to the avoidance body, closeness feels like a setup. It triggers the memory of childhood closeness, moments where they reached out, only to be ignored, rejected, or shamed. So when you lean in, their body leans out, not because you're wrong, but because their blueprint whispers, if I get close, I'll get hurt. The second rule: needing is shameful. As children, their needs were too big for their caregivers, so they learned to shrink them. Now, in adulthood, when they feel the stirrings of need, a desire for touch, a longing for reassurance, a craving for love, their body reacts with shame. The nervous system says, hide it, bury it, don't let them see how much you want. So instead of reaching out, they retreat. Instead of asking, they go silent. Instead of leaning in, they pull away. It looks like rejection, but it is actually protection. The third rule: distance is safety. The avoidant nervous system feels calm, not in your arms, but in their solitude. The space you fear is the space they trust. It feels predictable. It feels manageable. It feels like control. So when things heat up, when emotions rise, when intimacy deepens, when connection grows, their nervous system does not say yes. It screams danger. And the only way to stop the alarm is to create distance. This is why the avoidant can look calm when they withdraw. For you, it feels like abandonment. For them, it feels like relief. Their heartbeat slows. Their body relaxes. Their mind clears. Because they have returned to the only place that ever felt safe: aloneness. Think about texting. You send a message full of warmth. I miss you. I can't wait to see you. To you, it is closeness, connection, love. But to the avoidant, it stirs something else. It awakens need. It stirs vulnerability. It threatens to pull them closer than feels safe. So they don't reply, or they reply with cold brevity, or they change the subject. Not because they don't care, but because their nervous system whispers, too close, too fast, too risky. Now imagine conflict. You raise your voice. You express frustration. You ask for more. To you, this is repair. To them, it is danger. Their nervous system remembers the childhood scolding, the caregiver's anger, the feeling of being too much. So they shut down. They go silent. They disappear into themselves. Not because they don't want resolution, but because their nervous system insists. Safety lives in silence. or intimacy. You lean in with tenderness. You reach out in love. You share your heart. To you, it is connection. To them, it is suffocation. Their nervous system remembers the overwhelming presence of a caregiver who was inconsistent, sometimes close, sometimes gone. Closeness became unpredictable. So now, as adults, they brace against it. They may even feel relief after pulling away. And you're left wondering, how can love feel like danger to them? Because to their nervous system, love is not safety. Love is the trigger. It is the reminder of a past where love was unreliable, where connection was fragile, where need was punished. And so, even today, their body still obeys the old rules. Closeness is dangerous. Needing is shameful. Distance is safety. This is the invisible script you were dealing with. You were trying to build connection. They were trying to survive it. You were moving toward. They were moving away. Not because they didn't love you, but because their body was wired to treat your love as a threat. Picture it this way. Every time you moved closer, their nervous system lit up like an alarm. It wasn't their choice. It wasn't their plan. It was their reflex. A reflex trained long ago, in a childhood where closeness was unreliable. So now, as adults, they run from the very thing they crave. This is why so many partners feel confused. Because the avoidant can show love one moment and vanish the next. It is not inconsistency of feeling. It is consistency of rule. The nervous system still obeys what it learned long ago. Don't need. Don't trust. Don't lean in. And here is the paradox. The avoidant still longs for love, still craves connection, still wants closeness. But the closer it gets, the louder the alarm sounds. So they push you away, then wonder why they feel lonely. They withdraw, then ache for what they lost. They obey the blueprint and suffer for it. This is the tragedy of the avoidant. They are not cold by nature. They are cautious by training. Their body does not trust the very thing it needs. So they live torn between two truths. I want love. I fear love. And until they can rewrite that blueprint, the nervous system wins. Distance becomes safety. Closeness becomes danger. And you, the partner, are left holding the pieces. The mask of independence, how they hide the blueprint. On the surface, the avoidant looks strong. They look steady, unbothered, in control. They look like the one who doesn't need, the one who doesn't bend, the one who can walk away untouched. But that is the mask of independence, the disguise that hides the blueprint underneath. Think of it this way. As children, they learned that showing need was dangerous. So they built a mask to cover it. That mask says, I'm fine. I don't need anyone. I can take care of myself. And people believe it. Teachers called them mature. Friends called them strong. Partners called them distant. But inside, the blueprint was still alive. A nervous system still aching for love. A heart still wired for closeness. Only now, those needs were locked behind glass. This is why avoidants confuse so many partners. Because they look independent, yet they still get triggered. They look calm, yet they still react. They look cold, yet they still feel. The mask says, I don't need. But the body says, I'm starving for what I can't ask for. Think of how they carry themselves in conflict. You might cry, plead, open your heart. They cross their arms. They look away. They seem unaffected. But inside, their heart is racing. Their stomach is tight. Their nervous system is in alarm. They're not calm. They're frozen. The mask looks like indifference, but it is really self-protection. Or think of how they talk about relationships. They'll tell you, I like my space. I don't need commitment. I'm not emotional. And you believe them. But the truth is, they once needed too much and were punished for it. So they learn to frame their wound as preference, to call their fear independence, to call their loneliness strength. It is not who they are. It is who they had to become. This mask even fools them. The avoidant convinces themselves, I'm fine without closeness. I don't need anyone to complete me. I'm stronger on my own. And to some degree, it's true. They have trained themselves to live without. But deep inside, the body keeps score. The ache for connection never disappears. The craving for safety never goes away. It only hides, waiting for a moment of vulnerability to slip through. This is why you've seen glimpses, moments when the mask fell, when they reached for you in the night, when they softened after pulling away, when they showed tenderness they swore they didn't feel. Those glimpses were real. The blueprint was showing itself. But then the mask came back. The walls rebuilt. The distance returned. Because letting the mask fall feels too dangerous. The mask is not only emotional, it is practical too. Avoidants become masters of self-reliance. They pride themselves on handling things alone. They avoid asking for help. They refuse to appear weak. On the outside, it looks admirable, strong, capable, independent. But often, this independence is not freedom. It is exile. Exile from their own needs. Exile from the comfort of others. Exile from the closeness they secretly long for. This exile can feel lonely, but it also feels safe. Because in their world, needing someone else equals danger. So the mask becomes their shield. And you, the partner, are left wondering, why won't they let me in? Why do they act like they don't care? Why do they seem fine without me? But beneath the mask, they do care. They do feel. They do need. They've just learned to hide it so well that even they forget it's there. This mask of independence also explains the push-pull. When they let the mask slip, they draw close. They show tenderness. They even feel safe for a moment. But the second they realize how exposed they are, panic sets in. The mask returns. The distance grows. And they tell themselves, I shouldn't have opened up. To you, it feels cruel. But to them, it feels necessary. Because the mask is their protection. And protection always wins over intimacy. This is the tragedy. The mask that kept them safe in childhood now keeps them starved in adulthood. They want love, but they hide behind independence. They want safety, but they run from closeness. They want you, but they push you away. Because the mask whispers, you don't need them. You're fine alone. Stay safe. Stay distant. And you, the partner, are not wrong to feel shut out. You are shut out, not from their feelings, but from the mask that guards those feelings. Here's the hardest truth. The mask is so convincing that sometimes even you forget. You start to believe them. You start to think they truly don't care. You start to doubt your worth. But their distance is not your failure. It is their survival. The mask is not about you. It is about their past, their blueprint, their nervous system, still obeying childhood rules. So when you feel rejected, remember this. You are not being pushed away by their love. You are being pushed away by their mask. The mask of independence, the disguise of strength, the shield that hides the child within. And until that mask can fall for good, you will always be dealing with two people at once. The adult who looks strong, and the child still hiding. The hidden cost of the blueprint. The mask may look strong. The distance may look calm. The independence may look admirable. But there is a cost the avoidant rarely admits, a cost their partners often feel most, a cost that quietly bleeds through every relationship. The first cost is loneliness. An avoidant learns to survive alone. But surviving is not living. They know how to keep people out, but they don't know how to let people in. And so, even in a crowded room, they feel apart. Even in a relationship, they feel separate. They crave closeness, but can't tolerate it. They crave safety, but can't accept it. So they live in between, never fully connected, never fully free, a constant half-life. The second cost is misunderstanding. Partners misread them. Friends misunderstand them. Family thinks they're distant by choice. But it's not a choice. It's a reflex, a nervous system rule they never wrote. And yet, they're judged for it. You don't care. You're cold. You're selfish. Hearing this hurts. Because deep down, they do care. They just can't show it in the way others expect. So they are blamed for the very wound they never chose. The third cost is self-betrayal. Every time they long for closeness, but turn away instead. Every time they want to say, I love you, but keep silent. Every time they feel fear, but pretend to be fine. They betray their own heart. The child inside them still reaching, still waiting, still hoping. But the adult silences that child over and over until even they can't hear their own needs anymore. The fourth cost is sabotage. They dream of love. They want connection. But when it shows up, they push it away. Not because they don't want it, but because the blueprint says love equals pain. Closeness equals danger. So they pull back. They shut down. They end things before you can. And afterwards, they regret it. They ache. They wonder why they always run. But by then, it's too late. The fifth cost is emotional exhaustion. Living with a mask takes energy. Pretending to be fine takes effort. Holding back feelings takes strength. They live in constant tension, never fully relaxed, never fully at peace, always on guard, always managing, always controlling. And it shows up in the body. Tight shoulders, shallow breath, sleep that doesn't restore. The body pays for what the heart suppresses. The sixth cost is broken trust. For their partners, the push-pull cycle feels cruel. One moment, warm. The next, cold. One moment, close. The next, gone. It leaves partners confused. It leaves partners doubting. It leaves partners feeling unsafe. And slowly, trust erodes. Not because the avoidant never loved, but because love was always filtered through fear. The seventh cost is guilt. Avoidants rarely talk about it, but deep down, they know their walls hurt people. They see your tears. They hear your pleas. They feel your distance. When you finally give up, and part of them hates it, hates that they can't do what seems so simple, hates that love feels like a battlefield, hates that the people they care about end up feeling unloved. That guilt sits heavy, but instead of softening them, it often makes them retreat further. Because shame whispers, you're broken. You'll only hurt them. Stay away. The eighth cost is emptiness. You can succeed in career. You can build achievements. You can master independence. But at the end of the day, we are wired for connection. And when connection is missing, life feels hollow. The avoidant fills their days with work, with hobbies, with distractions. But at night, when it's quiet, the ache comes back. The ache for what they never learned to hold. The ninth cost is repetition. The blueprint repeats itself again and again. Different partners, different cities, different jobs, but the same patterns, the same distance, the same fear. Because until the blueprint is rewritten, life is lived on replay, and every failed relationship deepens the belief. See, I was right. Love doesn't last. Closeness always hurts. And here is the deepest cost of all. The avoidant never truly meets themselves. Because to meet yourself, you must face your own need, your own softness, your own vulnerability. But the mask won't allow it. The blueprint won't allow it. The fear won't allow it. So they live as half a person, functional, capable, but incomplete. And yet, this cost is not final. Because the blueprint was written, it can also be rewritten. Because the mask was learned, it can also be unlearned. Because the cost has been carried, it can also be released. The avoidant does not have to stay frozen. They can thaw, they can soften, they can love, but only if they are willing to face the cost they've been avoiding all along. Rewriting the blueprint, a different ending. The blueprint was written in childhood, but it is not permanent. It was carved by silence. It was shaped by absence. It was wired into the nervous system by repetition. But what is learned can be unlearned. What was broken can be healed. What was feared can be faced. Here is the truth. Avoidants are not cold. They are not heartless. They are not incapable of love. They are frozen. Frozen by a blueprint that once kept them safe. And frozen things can thaw. So what does rewriting the blueprint look like? It does not happen all at once. It does not happen with willpower alone. It happens slowly, in layers, step by step. The nervous system must learn a new set of rules. Rules that say, closeness is safe. Love does not vanish. Need is not shame. Softness is not weakness. These rules are not taught by lectures. They are taught by experience, by moments, by consistency. For the avoidant, healing begins with awareness. Awareness that the mask is not their identity. Awareness that independence was a shield, not their true nature. Awareness that their distance is survival, not preference. This awareness cracks the mask. It opens the door. It lets the child inside whisper again, I still want love. Then comes courage. The courage to do what feels unnatural. To stay present when every nerve screams, run. To speak when silence feels safer. To reach when withdrawal feels easier. This courage is not about being fearless. It is about being willing. Willing to feel discomfort. Willing to sit with panic. Willing to trust again, one step at a time. And healing also requires safety. Because you cannot rewrite the blueprint in chaos. You cannot thaw in an environment that feels cold. Safety is found in relationships, where love is steady, where words match actions, where closeness is not forced, but offered gently. Safety allows the avoidant nervous system to experiment, to test, to discover that love can stay. This is why therapy can help, not because a therapist gives advice, but because they offer consistency. Week after week, session after session, they show up, and slowly, the avoidant nervous system learns. Here is someone who doesn't leave. Here is someone who can handle me. Here is someone safe. But healing does not only belong in therapy. It can happen in everyday relationships. A friend who listens without judgment. A partner who stays calm when they pull away. A community where they feel accepted, not shamed. Every safe connection is a chance to rewrite the blueprint. For partners of avoidance, the role is not to fix them, not to tear down their mask, not to demand closeness on your terms. Your role is to hold steady, to understand the push-pull is not personal, to set your own boundaries, while still offering safety. Because healing is not about force, it is about invitation. The avoidant must choose. The avoidant must risk. The avoidant must step forward. But your steadiness can make that step possible. And for the avoidant themselves, rewriting the blueprint means learning to listen inside, to hear the parts they silenced, to feel the needs they buried, to grieve the childhood they lost. This grief is not weakness. It is freedom. Because until the pain is faced, the mask will always remain. Healing also means practicing closeness in doses, not jumping from walls to full vulnerability, but testing, experimenting, allowing small steps, replying to a text a little sooner, admitting I missed you, staying in the hug a few seconds longer. Each small act teaches the nervous system a new rule. I can be close and survive. Over time, these steps build. The mask loosens, the distance softens, the blueprint changes, and what once felt unbearable begins to feel natural. Closeness becomes safe, love becomes steady, need becomes human. But here is the beauty. When the avoidant rewrites their blueprint, they don't just heal themselves, they heal the people around them. Because suddenly, their partner feels seen, their children feel secure, their friendships deepen. Love stops being something they run from and becomes something they offer. This is the redemption of the blueprint. The rules written in pain can be replaced by rules written in love. The distance born of survival can be replaced by connection born of choice. And the child who once reached out and found nothing there can finally reach out today and find someone waiting. So when you deal with an avoidant, remember this. You are not dealing with coldness. You are not dealing with indifference. You are dealing with history, with survival, with a blueprint written long ago. And if that blueprint can be rewritten, then the story can change. Love does not have to be the enemy. Closeness does not have to be the danger. And distance does not have to be the only way. The blueprint can end differently. And so can they.